To discuss it all, CBS News senior political editor Steve Chaggaris joins me from Washington. Republican strategist and CBSN political contributor Leslie Sanchez here on set. So, Leslie, we appreciate the extra effort today to be here. But Steve, I'll start with you. After all, you're on the bird. Your reaction, not just to, again, what we saw play out Monday night, but what happened yesterday as both campaigns look to spin victories for the respective candidates.
Yeah, the issue is Clinton, who seemed to have a smile on her face throughout the day every time we saw her, I think realizes that she got the upper hand at this debate. And they're really hammering Trump on the temperament issue. They're hammering him on this issue that she brought up about this Miss Universe contestant that he apparently insulted 20 years ago. And that's what sort of everybody's been talking about the last 24 hours. This really isn't about anything that Hillary Clinton did negatively during the debate. So they feel that they've won at least the spin game in the day or two after the debate.
Leslie, it wasn't just what was said at debate's end. It was Donald Trump's response again yesterday morning to it, attesting to the pageant winners, what he called a significant weight gain. It has begat 24 more hours of discussion of it. It certainly seems like he has been playing defensively in these 24 hours following that debate. What to make of his decision to go to do what he did yesterday?
It just prolonged talking about it. Steve's exactly right. And think about the big news that came out yesterday. 50 Republicans, previous Bush administration appointees, some big names came on board to finally endorse and support this candidacy. He raised $18+ million, record amount of money. And overall, he won the online polls. He will constantly tell you, which really just aren't a legitimate measure of the debate reaction. But there were some positive wins, and he was distracted. So not only was he distracted, which was a very effective tactic by the Clinton campaign, by this kind of lone story from a long time ago, but it repeated a narrative he has problems with women. So again, the debate focuses on these swing voters and women who don't like to see, and they had a double win because it was an ethnic Latino woman, so it kind of mobilizes the Hispanic support and galvanizes that behind her. And
it spoke, Steve, to the idea of preparation, not with regard to general policy specifics, but also the nature of a debate, the chess match of it all. And it certainly seemed as though not only was Donald Trump not necessarily prepared to use the openings he might have been provided, but he walked right into this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear watching that 95 minutes on Monday night that he's never been in a situation like this. He's never been a debater like this. You know, he was on stage with multiple people where he was able to sort of fade back. He didn't need to really play offense in a strategic way. He could just sort of drop a bomb here or there in those debates and walk away. Here, you know, there were opportunities for him to go to at least try to flip the script on her and try to put her on defense, and he never really did that. In the beginning, he sort of did. He did start this narrative of politicians like Secretary Clinton have been at this for 30 years and they haven't done anything, and so he did have a little bit of offense in the beginning, but then she started in with all sorts of things and put him on defense, and he was unable to flip the script. I think the strategy part of this is something that he needs to work on and practice and watch, and I'm not sure there's going to be enough time in the next 11 days to do that, although the next debate is a town hall format where there'll be questions from the audience, so it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic changes things.
Donald Trump continued to hammer away at Hillary Clinton last night at his appearance in Florida with regard to her use of a private email server. This morning, FBI Director James Comey has been testifying about it on Capitol Hill, and again about, among other things, his investigation into her use of that server. I want to play just a bit of what he had to say and get your thoughts on the other side.
Questions are fair. I think criticism is healthy and fair. I think reasonable people can disagree about whether I should have announced it and how I should have done it. What's not fair is any implication that the Bureau acted in any way other than independently, competently, and honestly here. That's just not true. I knew this was going to be controversial. I knew there'd be all kinds of rocks thrown. But this organization and the people who did this are honest, independent people. We do not carry water for one side or the other. That's hard for people to see because so much of our country, we see things through sides. We are not on anybody's side. This was done exactly the way you would want it to be done. That said, questions are fair. Feedback is fair.
Having spent many hours doing just that, testifying on Capitol Hill, this is as animated as we have seen the director, Steve. As an issue then, some 40 days out from Election Day, how important are these remarks?
Well, he's just trying to get on the record. I mean, he is basically feeling like this has been turned into a political hot potato, and he's taking the fall, really, for the suggestion from many Republicans that the game is rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. And what he's trying to say, I mean, the last 2.5 months, he's been defending himself on this since he had that news conference to say we're not going to recommend prosecution of Clinton. And so this is him, again, another effort to set the record straight, but it's not going to stop Republicans from continuing to use this issue as something to bludgeon Hillary Clinton with. This is something we knew the Republicans were going to use between now or from that point through November, and they're going to continue to do so no matter what Comey says.
Leslie, a first pass has been taken at this issue now. We saw it Monday night. Hillary Clinton essentially offered a few short, simple sentences of apology. It was laid to rest. Donald Trump then evoked it once again in offering to trade his tax returns for the deleted emails in question. But other than that, there was no real pressing that we saw of the Democratic nominee with regard to this issue. Do you see that then changing in 10 days?
Not at all. I think, if anything, the heat on that area is going to continue to increase. It is an extremely effective line of attack because it does speak to poor judgment. And this issue of classified information, which I think most Americans are very sensitive to, we have a long history of doing that. There's two key points. After 2008 and after the financial crash, there was a lot of voter sentiment where people lost confidence in public institutions. And this is a big part of that. I think these seeds have been sown for a very long time. So it's remarkable to have such a defense of the FBI and of this institution, that there is no bias one way or the other. The system is not rigged. That we have come to that point is really the exclamation point on this issue, that the voters actually feel that way, and there is some resonance in that. And the second part, he did say today, Comey, that just because there's classified information on a non-classified system does not mean it's a criminal act. That's kind of splitting hairs. People are still extremely concerned that the truth did not come out.
And that is perhaps taking this conversation back down into the weeds. But with regard then to the headline of it all, were you surprised that Donald Trump did not make more use of it Monday night?
He could, that's going to Steve's point, he could have done a better job of rejoinders, coming back, nailing that issue a little further. He got distracted on all of these tangents and non sequiturs. Don't think you're going to see that again, but I do believe this issue of the Clinton Foundation, they are just winding that up, and it will be something we see in the next two debates.
Steve, we saw Hillary Clinton then, and for all the world, certainly seemed to be taking a victory lap through most of yesterday, but that joy perhaps belies some of the polling numbers that she is looking perhaps to fix today in New Hampshire. She has been hemorrhaging young voters in the polls, and so she finds herself on the stump today with Bernie Sanders. This is not a duo that we have seen since July, when Bernie Sanders, in fact, endorsed her. What do you make of the decision then to employ her former rival?
Two things. One, it's in New Hampshire, which is a state in which he beat her handily in the primaries. He's very popular there, at least among Democrats and people who voted in that primary. So that's an effort to energize just generally Democratic voters to get out in a state that has become closer in the polls, as you mentioned. And then, of course, young voters, as we saw all through the primaries. Young voters very fond of Bernie Sanders. She's having trouble with young voters. This is a hope on the part of the Clinton folks that he will, again, energize those voters to get out in November to help push her over the top in these battleground states.
In speaking to Sanders surrogates, in fact, Monday at Hofstra, they privately told me they were shocked, frankly, that he has not been used more by the campaign. What do you make of this decision?
Uncomfortable marriage, a kind of a lot of bravado among the Clinton campaign. They said one person called it arrogance, that they felt they didn't necessarily need to bring Bernie Sanders into the fold and mobilize his grassroots, his movement. The difference with somebody like Bernie Sanders is the question always is, it's a movement-oriented campaign. Yeah. There were other people who will pick up the mantle and run on those ideas because they were so extremely powerful to this particular constituency, and they don't feel there's any transference with the establishment in Hillary Clinton. So yes, they may fall into party line, but it's not that easy a switch just to put Sanders on the campaign and think it's going to come over.
The numbers were so striking. It does really seem that it will have to be Bernie Sanders these last 40 days doing it, if anyone does. Leslie Sanchez, Steve Chaggaris, as always, we very much appreciate the insights.
Thanks.